Hello and welcome back to the third and final episode in my quick series filmed here at Linden Nurseries, my local and family run nursery. They've got so many cool exotic plants, it's well worth a visit. Not a sponsored video, they've just let me film for a few hours after they've closed and really share with you some of these incredible plants. And today we're talking all about exotic gardens. It's a phrase you might have heard before, it might summarise the look that you want to go for in your garden, but what is an exotic garden? Well, briefly summed up, because that light is dipping and I haven't had my tea yet, so I'm getting quite hungry. I think an exotic garden, it's all about growing unusual plants. Plants that either look like they come from the far ends of the world, or definitely come from there. Unusual plants, plants that are striking, sculptural, structural, all these words that you hear on Gardener's World every single week, these plants turn it up to 10. It's about growing plants that look completely different to the native vegetation here in the UK. Plants that definitely wouldn't fit in with a cottage garden theme. Fast growing, huge leaves, weird and wonderful plants from all around the globe. That's what exotic gardening is. Now, you can be an exotic gardener, grow an exotic garden that has more of a tropical style with the cannas, the musabaju bananas, the other plants I talked about in the previous videos. You can have an exotic garden that's maybe more of a jungle style garden that creates a dense canopy above you, huge plants that tower over you, a strong green look through the garden with unusual glossy leaves, every shade of green. But an exotic garden for me is something beyond that. Whereas jungle gardening definitely conveys a theme of dense planting, huge plants, tropical style, it's got to be about the bright bold colours. When it comes to exotic gardening, you can combine any number of these, and in fact I do in my garden. Have a look at my video tours or the gardens that I've visited, Yorkshire Chris's, Mark's Crazy Tiki Garden, all great exotic gardens that combine lots of different elements and themes. But to me, when it comes to exotic gardening, it really is a style that can apply to any size of garden. It's possible in containers, a border, or a full-on garden. It's all about choosing the right plants for the right impact. And here, looking around this shop, there's a lot of great examples. But rather than focusing on the leafy jungle planting, you can check out the previous two videos in this series to have a look at those. I want to talk about more about the unusual plants, the really striking plants. Some that might have to stay in pots, like these Sempervivums, but I mean, just look at that. Doesn't that look incredible? These are plants with real impact. So let's head up this way and get started. Now, if you want to grow a pot plant that really does look next level, just look at some of these agaves. They're potentially not the plant I'd start with if I was growing an exotic garden, but if you've got a greenhouse or a conservatory you can move these to in winter, something like this in a big terracotta pot, like the ones I'll show you outside here, it really would look next level. But if you want to grow a full and exotic garden, there's better choices to start with. And I would start, again, regular viewers won't be surprised to hear this, with a palm. I would potentially start with a Chamaerops. These are Chamaerops humilis, the Mediterranean dwarf fan palm, and these are a great choice for an exotic garden, in the ground or in a large container. So two of the potential obstacles with tropical and jungle gardening are firstly that they require a good rich soil, maybe a decent amount of shade, and plenty of water and feeding over summer. Whereas in my eyes, exotic gardening, the chance to grow plants from warmer climates, places around the world that see a lot less rainfall than here, it's definitely an exciting and potentially more sustainable way to create an garden here in the UK. And palms like Chamaerops or Chamaerops humilis, they're a great start. These are slow growing plants that come from drier parts of the world than here, and that means they can survive our summers without a lot of water. They're a great choice for pots because of that reason, and they'll look green even in the middle of winter. All you need to do is give them a bit of protection from really cold prolonged freezes if you keep them in pots. But once they get to this size, you can plant this out, and as long as it's got a few months to settle in before it gets really cold, it should do fine unless there's a really, really cold winter. So I think if you're looking for an exotic plant to start with, if you want something low maintenance or thrive in a sunny, maybe sandy or stony soil, I think these are a great choice. But if you can't afford something like that, well, there's other options available. There's some really young ones here, if you fancy growing a small plant in a little pot. But I think the medium ground is actually these here. These are Chamaerops compacta. There's also a Vulcano variety, and these actually stay a lot smaller. They still grow big eventually, they will form a clump in time, but these have got the most striking look to them. I grow these in my North Lincolnshire garden without protection, and other than maybe a few slightly browning leaves down near the base, you don't need to do anything to them. Just remove the old leaves when they go brown and give them a bit of watering that first summer to really help them settle in. But beyond that point, other than maybe an occasional feeding, you need to do nothing. Striking, low maintenance, wind tolerant, and just beautiful. I think Chamaerops are a great palm choice if you're wanting to create an exotic garden but doesn't need a lot of your care and time to really look stunning. Another cool exotic plant for a pot are these Cycads. They're not quite as tough as the Chamaerops, and personally I'd recommend moving them into either a conservatory or cold greenhouse or polytunnel like I do for winter, and that way they stay green and you can enjoy this beautiful look to them next year. So they're not quite as tough, but certainly worth growing. However, if you want a plant that's really got exotic impact but without any winter worries, Yucca gloriosa variegata. This is a plant that's definitely one of the basic exotic plants that to me is almost undervalued. This is a plant that almost has that agave look to it. You've got these beautiful colours, a very bold form. Now, I definitely wouldn't recommend planting these near a path for obvious reasons. Yeah, they're definitely got the potential to take your breath away if you brush past them. These are a plant that's a spiky beast, but they're also a low maintenance, drought tolerant, sun loving plant that will thrive in almost any soil. These are a very tough plant, and ideally give them a spot that sees full sun in your garden, and if you do, you'll be rewarded with this fantastic display. You get the flowers once they get to a certain size, and they do also split and you get other offsets coming off the base. So if you want them to, they can form a good clump. But it's a plant that might be common, but I honestly think if you plant them in the right way, in some beautiful containers, maybe a stunning raised bed with some lovely gravel around them, I think they're as striking as any of these other rare exotics. Some monster cycads there just coming in, ready to be unwrapped and labelled up. They absolutely look stunning. If you've got a large conservatory and you really want a pot plant with impact, just look at those, incredible. Around here, Linden Nurseries, it's known as being the place to go for pots. Affordable, such a huge range. Again, this isn't a sponsored video. This is the place that I come for my pots. I don't generally grow a huge amount in pots myself these days. I prefer to have a lot in the ground. But if I was going to grow a lot in pots, this is the place I would go. And this is probably one of the plants I would choose. This is a Yucca rostrata. This particular one is flowering. A stunning display there. But this is a Yucca. You can see here, moving in the wind. It really does look as sculptural as any plant you can get. These are definitely a step up from the Yucca gloriosa, and I think they look beautiful. These could be striking in an arid or desert style garden, but equally at home surrounded by flowers, maybe verbena, plants that can survive in the drier conditions that this enjoys, but also really add to the colour. Yucca rostrata then, and this variety is actually Blue Swan, which has this stunning silvery blue colour to the leaves, as you might imagine. It's an incredibly tough and hardy plant. Obviously, like any plant, it has its limits, but here in North Lincolnshire, well, the fact that I've planted over 10 smaller Yucca rostrata out this spring, which I'll share with you very soon, that gives you an idea of how confident I am in the hardiness. There's lots of different varieties available, but I think if you're growing a low maintenance garden, if you've got quite a dry, sunny garden, maybe raised beds or large pots, something like this would be truly breathtaking. But you don't have to spend that much. There's other smaller sorts you can get. And I mean, just look at the colour of that. For a plant that's hardy here in the UK, that's low maintenance, that absolutely thrives in these warmer, drier summers we're having, maybe not this July, but you know what I mean, I think these really are stunning. Now, obviously buying large specimen plants, it's not going to be cheap, especially in 2023 when everything has gone up. But for £249, I think these medium-sized rostrata, well, it's certainly a lot of money, but but you're getting a lot of impact for your money. Just look at that blue silver colour. They really look incredible. If you've got a large house and you're looking for something genuinely stunning, can you imagine 2 of those, one either side of your doorway in a large pot or urn? Plenty of ideas and inspiration here. This is just the start of it. This place goes on forever. I think 2 of those would look incredible. And again, if you've got a sunny raised bed or border, something like this really would look stunning. Trachycarpus are definitely a standard choice if you want to create an exotic jungle or tropical themed garden here in the UK. They fit in with so many styles and themes. They're just so easy to grow and look beautiful, unless they get a little bit tatty in the wind. But overall, very easy, very tough plants. But if you want something really exotic and next level, just look at some of these cloud pruned olives. They definitely would look awesome in a huge pot or urn. And you might have seen in my video last year, my fire pit series, which will eventually return as soon as I get time, I've gone for one of these magnificent olives. Yes, they're not cheap, but if you want an exotic garden that definitely feels like it's been there a while, there's so much age and character to them. If you really want to set the tone that your garden doesn't feel like the UK, then something like an olive as a majestic centerpiece, I think you'll struggle to beat this. And like the Yuccas, like the Chamaerops, very drought tolerant, they love the sun, a very well drained soil will suit them perfectly. And if you've got the budget to go for a massive pot, they're slow growing, they can tolerate the dry conditions, they'd certainly be happy for a lot of years. But as much as we all want our own Italian olive grove, I think we've got to be a bit more realistic. If you just start an exotic garden, this is the size of Yucca rostrata that I went for. I think they're around 60 or 70 pounds, and you're getting a good balance between instant impact, hardiness, and a plant that will grow well. And like the others that I've shown you, you don't need to do anything for these in winter. It's all about choosing the right spot in your garden, somewhere sunny, well-drained soil, and then just enjoy them growing. And after a few years, that plant will probably double the size, so you still get that impact in time. Euphorbias, I'm sure you'll know these, available at most garden centres and nurseries. They're a great way of adding drought tolerant, easy, low maintenance impact to your garden. If you live somewhere colder, go for a greener sort. But if you live somewhere a little bit more mild, potentially near the coast, then go for some of the really flamboyant coloured ones. Loads more Trachycarpus fortunei coming in there. Like I said, a great plant for the jungle look, but also they can be great in a more sparse, arid style desert or full-on Mediterranean garden. They pair really well with the olives and also with bamboos and the big leaves. But as we come round this way, I want to show you a few of the filler plants. The plants I've been growing in my more exotic Mediterranean, drought-tolerant area. And some of these might surprise you. And these you can buy at any garden centre. So let's start off. Sempervivums, house leeks. Yes, you see them everywhere, but just look at those. Each one is a beautiful little plant there. They spread nicely, very tough, hardy plants, and they like the same conditions that the bigger plants do. And it's not just about creating detail on a smaller level. Having low-level plants, I think, really makes you appreciate the structure of the bigger specimen plants. Because if you had every plant in your garden as a huge specimen, it wouldn't look very good. You wouldn't be able to appreciate the beauty of each plant in itself. And to me, I've actually bought a couple of these ones today. Chinese hat there. Those look really striking. Very budget-friendly, very easy to grow. Firstly, grasses. Now, there's a load of different grasses you can buy. And if you want something purple, here, we've got that one there, which is Andropogon. That is a lovely choice. That, can you imagine that setting off some silvery green planting? It really would look phenomenal. You've got Festuca glauca, which is the blue grass that you see, again, at most garden centres and nurseries. I think those little mounds look perfect with exotic style planting. And then, they don't actually have any more stock at the minute, but the tenuissima, which I believe now is called Nasella tenuissima, I've got some of that growing and it really does look stunning. The soft flowing shapes really look great with a hard exotic bold structure. Now, looking around here, there's actually a lot of plants you could grow with the exotics. And like I said in the tropical garden video, I don't want to limit your imagination. I think as long as you go with a few bold specimen plants, if you go with something like an olive, a big palm, a couple of those yuccas maybe, from that point then, it can go as far as your imagination wants it to go. Something like an iris, they're bold and sculptural. Hylotelephiums are one of my absolute favourites. These are available in so many different colours, green leaves, purple leaves, you can have red flowers, pink flowers. They're such an easy plant. Drought tolerant, beautiful plants for a sunny spot. The amount of bees and hoverflies on them in late August through to September, they're absolutely phenomenal. They do die down in winter, but they're very easy to split in spring, and you can get so many more free plants to your garden. So if you want to offset the price of buying a large specimen, definitely get some of these as a great investment to help enjoy that colour through more areas of your garden without spending any more of your hard-earned money. So for an exotic garden here in the UK, not every plant has to be a rare tender exotic. You can get away with a lot of these favourites as long as you stick to the more unusual varieties, something that looks a little bit different, and then also go big on your colour theme. So if you're going for purples, really go for purples. And if you're going for silvers like I'm doing, definitely there's so many silver leaf plants you can enjoy. Plants like Agapanthus here, a beautiful blue that would set them off perfectly. And over here, you've got angel wings. These, if you haven't seen them before, they are a little bit tender. Potentially need to be kept in either a greenhouse or indoors over winter. But the look of them, and more importantly, the feel of them, it really is next level. Beautiful plants. Euphorbia are another fantastic exotic garden plant. Evergreen, beautiful structure, generally tough and hardy. There's Euphorbia for shady spots, Euphorbia for sunny spots. There's small mounded bush ones, there's huge towering ones like mellifera. There's everything in between. So whatever your garden, whatever your garden conditions, chances are there's a Euphorbia or two for you. A couple of my favourites are mellifera and John Phillips, which I grow in my garden. But if you want something more sensibly sized, some of these beautiful colour varieties here, I mean, just showing you what these ones are. That's Ascot Rainbow there. That one's Martini. There's so many Euphorbias that to me are a great complementary plant to the other palms and exotics. Because like I said, not every plant in your garden has to be a hugely expensive specimen or something you worry about in winter. And plants like these are a great way of repeating the same plant through your garden to create a cohesive, well-designed look with colour and structure all year long. And it doesn't have to be about evergreens either. Look at these Japanese maples, acers. Just think of the beautiful autumn foliage and the spring foliage and the summer foliage. Yes, they might look a bit bare in winter, but then you can appreciate the beautiful shape and structure. And when this colour does come through, can you imagine that with some bamboos and palms? These small leaves really offsetting the big structural shapes, that really would look incredible. And I'll just show you some more through here. I mean, just look at the variety of all this. So many different maples, fine dissected, really cut leaves, beautiful purples. There's so many. As we head through, you'll see it's not just trees here. Well, they've got more of the olives, a lot more affordable olives here. You've got some unusual figs there, some fruiting. These are great as a potted plant, or if you've got a sunny, well-drained garden, definitely add something different to the space. You might have seen these in my first video tour here. We've got the big Chamaerops, some monsters here. So if you've got the money and you really want to go all out and create an exotic look, having a few choice specimens and then some companion planting that sets off the colours, that thrives in the same conditions, it really is the way forwards. Something I need to clear up. This plant here that says Soul George, it's not mine. Believe it or not, 5 separate people have all messaged me on Facebook or Instagram to say, is this your plant? Unfortunately, it isn't. But if I could fit it in my van and get away with it, I probably would. But let's head back round. So whilst a lot of warm climate, truly exotic gardens, they might look something more like this succulent collection next to me. Loads of colours, loads of really unusual shapes, but unfortunately unobtainable if you want to leave your plants outside all year here in the UK. But we can definitely create a wide variety of exotic looks. And when I started this video series, I thought jungle gardens, that's a nice easy one. I know where I'd start. I know the reliable plants I would choose first that are available in places like Linden Nurseries and other garden centre nurseries as well. I know what I would go with and I know the plants I would use with them to really create the effect. When it comes to tropical gardens, you know the plants that look fantastic. So I was pleased to mention the Musa Baju, Techpanax, Cannas, Big leaves, bright colours, you can't go wrong. It's so easy to create a really tropical look. But when it comes to an exotic garden, I realised looking around that, to be honest, it's more about the plants that grab you, and it's about the look you want to create and the space you're dealing with. So to me, an exotic garden, it doesn't have to fit one particular theme. It can be a full-on desert or arid garden. Plants that are spiky, succulent, plants like the agaves, the yuccas, that really do look striking, with lots of sand and gravel in between, and lots of bare space, negative space, to really appreciate the sculptural shapes, the forms that really look exquisite. It could be more Mediterranean. You could go down the route of having an olive tree and then some different, again, agaves and succulents around that. Maybe using some of the hylotelephiums, the sedums, to really set them off and complete the whole drought tolerant, low maintenance planting that won't require any watering in most UK summers. So you can create the kind of look that you want to do. You can have a more lush and colourful exotic garden that maybe leans towards a more tropical or jungle style. You can have a lot more palms. Check out my other videos to see the other palms that we can grow here in the UK and the ones that we can nearly grow that are definitely worth a try, particularly if you live in the south coast or maybe a more central city location. There's so many really cool varieties. But when it comes to an exotic garden, I did struggle with this video to actually say, start here, these are the plants I would recommend, because there's just so many and the options really are endless. But I think probably the most critical advice that I would give is make sure you're planting for the conditions that you have. If you saw my last video at Mark's Crazy Tiki Garden, then the right plant, right place motto will probably be seared into your brain by now. If you watched all the way through, you'll know what I'm on about, but it really is crucial. If you've got quite a shady garden with quite fertile, damp soil, then it probably makes more sense to lean towards the jungle style of planting. Maybe have more palms, leafy plants, and ferns, hostas, things like that, to really create a lush look without a lot of effort. But then, conversely, if you've got a sunnier, more exposed garden, you might get buffeted with wind, you might have very free draining sandy or stony soil. It makes little sense to really fight that and have a full-on jungle theme, because those big leaves will be getting burnt by the sun and whipped around by the wind and won't have enough moisture, or at least they'll require a lot of watering and care from yourself, which ultimately isn't the way forwards, both from your time point of view and environmental sustainability, all that kinds of thing. So to me, it's all about really realising what you've got and the look you want to create. Almost anything is possible here in the UK. We've definitely got a very favourable climate when it comes to growing a wide variety of plants. So to me, an exotic garden really wants to be your exotic garden. If it wants to be leafy and colourful, make it leafy and colourful. If you want something drier, tougher, spikier, then you go for that. And you might be surprised at how many plants we can grow here in the UK are just hardy, easy to grow, don't need any care, just do the thing and look incredible. And hopefully the ones I showed you earlier on in this video, the Chamaerops, the Yucca, some agaves, are a great place to start. And from there, you can just go wherever you want it to go. If you want to go down the hylotelephium sedum route, you can create something that doesn't need any watering, great for pollinators and looks so colourful in summer. You can have a garden that's entirely made up of sculptural evergreen plants that look fantastic in winter. Plants like the yuccas, really strong foliage, and then the flowers are a bonus. You can lean full on into the flower theme. You can have lavender and go for the full on Mediterranean garden with an exciting exotic twist. Or you can potentially have red hot pokers. There's a lot of normal garden plants that are readily available that used in multiples, planted with a few key specimen plants, really scream exotic. And it's not for me to tell you what to plant. All I would say is check out some local garden centres and nurseries near you, or if you live in North Lincolnshire, South Lincolnshire, Yorkshire, anywhere around this part of the country, it's well worth making a trip to Linden Nurseries and see the wide variety of exciting plants you've got here. Definitely check out my other videos. Check out my video looking at Yorkshire Chris's garden, Mark's Tiki garden, and some of the other incredible gardens that I've visited. Because I think exotic gardening, it's not just a case of going out to a garden centre, buying a few plants and chuck them in. It's all about that inspiration. You can find that visiting a garden yourself. You can find it on YouTube. You might just see one picture, one plant and think, I want that. But wherever you get the inspiration, starting off with a few key specimen plants that are tough, hardy and easy to look after is never a bad idea. And from that point, you can let your imagination go wild. And if you've got a lot of experience growing these plants, or there's some other exotic plants that you would definitely recommend as a starter, low maintenance, easy, doesn't cost the world, then definitely leave it in the comment section below. Because I did get slightly carried away looking at those huge olive trees, the massive yuccas. They're probably not the plants you start with, but if you can, definitely go for it. Thanks a lot for watching. If you've got any questions, as always, leave them in the comment section below. Appreciate you all. See you later.